Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We're at Everett Payne Field in Everett, Washington. Boeing 307 Stratoliner. This is a cool plane. I don't know if you haven't downloaded this one yet. I would recommend it. I downloaded from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 Marketplace, then I enabled it here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Been just flying it just a little bit this last week or so. Decided to do a video on it. Just looking into some of the history I wanted to share with you. And then when I get done doing that, we'll jump in it, do a full startup checklist, taxi out, and then we'll fly it down to Boeing Field just south of Seattle International. It's not a very long flight, so bear with me. We'll get it in the air and back on the ground again here. But I'm going to start out with some specs. So it's 74 foot 4 inches long. Wingspan is 107 foot 3 inches. Overall height just about 21 inches. 21 feet. The empty weight is 29,900 pounds, and the loaded weight 45,000 pounds max loaded weight. The Boeing 307 Stratoliner was the first airliner to have a pressurized cabin. It was a major advance in aviation, allowing for faster, smoother flights above bad weather. So the whole idea is they want to get up 17,000 feet. They could get above the choppy air going over the Rocky Mountains, get above thunderstorms, a lot more comfortable for the passengers. Just a game changer for the whole aviation scene at that time. First flight was in 1938, first test flight. This plane was actually derived from the B-17 Flying Fortress. It had the same wings, tail, and engines as the B-17 bomber. The Stratoliner's fuselage was circular to allow for the pressurization. It was nicknamed the Flying Whale because of its portly lines. First commercial flight, July 1940. Last commercial flight, 1951. Although I did read somewhere along the line, I was doing some research, I saw somewhere it would flown passengers up until like the mid 80s. Who knows where, why, or how, but anyways, I saw that somewhere. So this thing could cruise at ceiling is 20 to 23,000 feet. The cruising speed was 213, I believe. Max speed, I think I saw, was 233. Had a capacity of 33 passengers, but later modifications increased it to 60. Had a crew of 5, 2 pilots, a flight engineer, 2 flight attendants. Only 10 of these were built. 3 were built for Pan Am, 5 served with TWA, and a 9th Stratoliner was supplied to Howard Hughes. I think Howard Hughes was the president of TWA, if I'm not mistaken. The prototype Boeing 307, the NX-190901, crashed during a test flight on March 18, 1939. It departed Boeing Field in Seattle for a flight to test the ship's stability. During maneuvers, the aircraft unintentionally stalled, went into a flat spin, and crashed into a ravine near Elder in Pierce County, 40 miles southeast of Tacoma. A crew of 10 who were on board to navigate, monitor, and evaluate the flight were all killed in the mishap. Sad piece of the story. So yeah, there was 9 of these. The prototype was destroyed in a crash. Moving on, there's a little clip I found that was had to do with the first flight, the first test flight. One of the newspapers had wrote this article. Seattle, December 31st, 1938. The world's first plane designed for flying in the substratosphere. The new Boeing Stratoliner performed admirably in a 41-minute test flight in the rain today. The big ship, with a wingspan of 107 feet 3 inches, climbed to 4,000 feet. Cruised between here, Tacoma, and Everett. Speed was held down to 170 miles an hour. The control and stability were the way it handled were very nice, said Edmund T. Allen, the pilot. She performed admirably. Okay, so back in the day, that was the news article for the first flight. Alrighty, well, let's jump in this thing, jump on a checklist, fire it up, take off, and go to Boeing field. Okay, we'll jump on our checklist quick here. Pre-start, parking brake is on. Services switch is on, and the refuel light is on. Switch is on for the fuel truck. Battery, we're going to jump over there and put that to GPU, ground power unit. Right here. As long as we're here, we're going to do our tanks to main. Check our fuel quantity is good. Gears 3 green. Navigation lights are on. No, they're not. No, they are. Beacon lights on. Landing lights are off. The flap switch is off. Sadly, I've memorized part of this checklist. Propellers are full. Our mixtures full, rich. We did the fuel tank levers already. Our pitot heat is up here. And our inverters need to be on. Okay, trims neutral, altimeter is set, autopilot is off, inverters are on. That concludes our pre-start checklist. Okay, now we're going to jump out. We're going to look at all our fancy dancy stuff we got here. So we got there loading some luggage. There's our stewardess waving at us. We got our stairs going up into the plane. So that's kind of cool. Got our 1940s era fuel truck and our old GPU. Really cool. You could have your very own 1940s fuel truck if you just downloaded this airplane, and I would highly recommend it. Where else can you get something like this? Anyways, I'm not sure if you would be as proud of it as I am, but there you go. Let's jump back in here. We're going to pull the stewardess in, pull the stairs up, and we are going to get rid of the fuel truck so we can fire this bird up. Okay, we are ready to start. So we're going to go prime, engine 1, prime, boost, and start. We're going to be turning that prop. We're running off of ground power right now to turn the starter. And as soon as I put it on 2 magnetos, she is going to fire up. Guaranteed. Or your money back. Okay, engine 2, prime, boost, start. Give her a second, then we're going to give her our magnetos. There we go. Engine 3, prime, boost, start. 2 magnetos, both. Start. We are running with 3 engines. Engine 4, prime, boost, and start. Give it a couple seconds. Then we're going to give it our both magnetos. And we should be starting. All our engines should be running. And they are. Okay, we're going to jump back in here on our checklist just to make sure we don't forget something. We're going to go to warm up. So we got the fuel truck switches off, the services switches off, our batteries needs to go from ground power to battery again. And that is right here, up for battery. Our generators are on. I turned them on my controller switches, they happen to be on there. We're going to check our instruments. Checking instruments, and I wouldn't know what I was looking at even if I checked them. We are going to run our throttles up to 1500 RPMs and do a mag check, which I'm not even going to bother with the mag check because I can't really see any drop in amps or anything when I do that mag check. I don't see drop in amps or RPM, but that's the idea of the mag check in real life, is that if you hear a difference, you know that one of your mags is not working. So then that's the whole idea. But so if you drop it to just the right mag, you would know. And then when you put it back to both, if there's a change, you know that both your mags are working. So anyways, enough of that. You know all about that. So mag check is complete. Let's check, make sure they shut our doors. Doors shut. Radios are tuned. Okay, taxi checklist. Tail wheel is locked. Let's check. Whoops, sorry, I'm flipping around with my views here. This light indicates that the tail wheel is not locked for now. Flaps is required. I'm going to go 15%, just because I'm not 100% sure, as far as weight and balance and takeoff configuration. I'm not sure, but I know that 15% works for now. Good enough for me. And so there you have it. We're going to back out of here. We're going to do a push back, release my parking brakes, and we are going to push back. And so here we go. We are pushing back. We're going to push back enough so that we can get turned out onto that taxiway and taxi on over to, more than likely, to 16 right would be more than likely what's going to happen. So I'm going to tune ground right now, and then once we get pushed back enough to turn out onto the taxiway, then we can call ground for taxi clearance. Don't worry, folks, it doesn't get any better. You really got to be into flight sims to stick with this. But for those of you that are, you're like me, you love flight simulators. Okay, so I stopped my push back. I'm going to jump on the brakes so we don't roll forward. And we are going to call for clearance.
Paying ground, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er with Sierra request taxi for takeoff, departing straight out.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er taxi to and hold short of runway 16 or via taxiway Alpha Alpha. Contact tower on 1 tree 2. 9 or 5 when ready.
Taxi 2 and hold short runway 16 are using taxiway Alpha Alpha Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er.
Okay, here we go. Just as I thought, we're going to runway 1R, 1 right, 16 right, I mean. Okay, we're gonna flip our seatbelts and our no smoking. $19.40, I would imagine everybody on this plane is probably smoking. Okay, let's call for takeoff clearance. Request takeoff clearance.
Payne Tower, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er at runway 16 are ready for departure, straight out departure. Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er altimeter 29er. 9er 2 departing straight out approved. Cleared for takeoff, runway 16R. Cleared for takeoff, runway 16, our Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er.
Okay, we gotta have our tail wheel locked for takeoff. Props are set to full. Flaps are set. We are ready for takeoff. We're gonna full throttle for this takeoff. This thing just wants to fly. 70, not even quite 80 miles an hour, and this thing is wanting to jump off the ground. Okay, climb checklist real quick here is going to be climb is going to be gears up, flaps are up, and we're going to climb for 130 to 170. So here we go. Okay, so you probably have a little bit of an idea listening to some of the history and the first test flight and all that stuff, why we're flying from Everett Payne Field to Boeing Field. All part of the area where this plane first flew. So
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er, leaving my airspace frequency change approved. Payne Tower, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er frequency change.
okay, let's jump on our approach checklist just because it's not very far we're going to be. So our cruise checklist, flaps are up, propeller is preset, mixtures as required, throttle as required, autopilot as required, approach 140 miles an hour, flaps as required. So we will work through that checklist when we get a little closer, but we will keep our speed between 140 and 170 for now. And try to keep altitude at about no more than 4,000 feet, probably. Haven't played around with the autopilot yet on this. I'm sure I could figure that out at some point. Been busy just kind of trying to figure out the other critical flight components of this thing. So we're going to stretch our downwind base and final out a little bit from what is on the map, just because it's way too tight. So we're going to get over to the west just a little bit before we start our downwind. A couple little things I wrote down that I can share while we're killing some time here. When TWA bought, well, when both Pan Am and TWA bought these, they put in their orders like in 1938 before the first test flight, I believe, and they were $315,000 for these airplanes. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I also have some flight fares that I wrote down. So you could fly from New York to Burbank. The route name was called Super Sky Chief. $270 round trip, and you could get a sleeper berth surcharge for $120. Go Kansas City to New York for $120 with a $9 sleeper surcharge. What was the other one? Chicago to New York for $81 round trip, and the sleeper surcharge for that was only $6. So there's Seattle International right here, which is actually, I think, out here. Yeah, there's Seattle International right here. Downtown Seattle.
Tower, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er is 4 miles southwest 3,700 feet with Quebec to land.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er Boeing Tower, altimeter 29er, 9er 2 enter left base runway tree 2L.
Fly left base runway tree 2L, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er Windcom cleared to land runway tree 2L.
Okay, we're going to do our approach checklist. We're going to flaps down, get slowed down, gears down.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er acknowledge last transmission.
Cleared to land runway tree 2L, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er.
Okay, let's see if we can not ground loop this thing. That would be a bonus.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er turn next taxiway. Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er contact ground on 121. 9er.
121, 9er Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er. Boeing ground Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er request taxi to parking.
Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway Bravo 4 Bravo.
Taxiing to general aviation parking via taxiway Bravo 4 Bravo, Boeing Sierra Papa Uniform 189er.
Okay, well, there you have it. I got one more thing I want to share with you. So, since we went through the whole history and everything, now I want to talk about the very last plane that's actually in flyable condition. So, I'm going to read this. It's unfortunately from an accident website, but this is the story of what happened to the very last Stratoliner, which is actually down in Virginia at one of the Smithsonian Air and Space Museums. Boeing Stratoliner and November 190903, built in 1940, was restored to flying conditions and rolled out on June 23, 2001 in Seattle. The aircraft was restored to original condition with Pan American Airlines livery, carrying the name Clipper Flying Cloud. On March 28, 2002, the aircraft took off from Boeing Field for a local flight around 12:30. The crew were to practice takeoffs and landings and shake out any mechanical problems. Both pilots were planning to do 3 takeoffs and landings each with a refueling stop in between. The first flights were uneventful, with the plane flying from Boeing Field to Everett Payne Field. Okay, so now you're getting a little picture of why I started out at Everett Payne. We landed at Boeing, went past Seattle. It's all coming together now. Anyway, so on a takeoff there at 12:51, the number 3 engine surged briefly. It returned to normal, but the pilots decided to abort the rest of the practice and return to Boeing Field. On approach, it appeared that the left main landing gear had not locked down. The approach was aborted, and the plane circled Vashon and Bainbridge Islands. I'm sure I butchered those names, but um, as the flight mechanic manually cranked the wheel into the locked position. The pilot then resumed its approach. The airplane was about 6 miles from the runway when the fuel pressure for the number 3 engine dropped below minimum. The boost pumps were turned on. However, fuel pressure did not recover and the engine lost power. The low fuel pressure light then illuminated for the number 4 engine. The captain commanded the flight engineer to switch fuel feed to another tank. The flight engineer's response was, "There is no other tank. We are out of fuel." The captain pushed the throttles forward and called for number 3 engine to be feathered. So now they're down to, what do they have, one engine that's possibly giving them power, maybe? When the throttles were pushed forward, the remaining engines had also lost power. The airplane was rapidly losing altitude, and the captain decided he had to ditch it in Elliott Bay. After landing, the airplane remained afloat while the crew evacuated. They were quickly picked up by rescue boats. The airplane was subsequently towed to shallow water by Seattle Police Department boat before it partially sank in water just offshore. Oh, the day after the accident, the aircraft was lifted from the water. So thank goodness everybody survived. But man, can you imagine the disappointment? 30 volunteer retired Boeing employees worked for 6 years to restore this back to flyable condition. And then they had that unfortunate bad luck. But anyways, they got it back. They brought it back, got it back flying, and were able to, in 2003, I believe, deliver it to its resting place, which is in Virginia, I believe, at one of the air museums, Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. So that's where it is, and that's one of the last ones that is out there, and it is in flyable condition, but it is in the museum. So, alrighty, well, hope I didn't bore you completely to death, but I wanted to give you a little rundown on this airplane and fly it, and there you have it. So have a good day.